What's up, Guava Bean? Welcome to another episode of the Dear GUAVABEAN Podcast. Today, my guest is Stevie, who is a social media coach and a content creator. But before that, she used to work as a social media manager for several remote companies. And in this episode, we talk all about what social media is, what you would do as a social media manager, the courses that she took and the certifications that she got in order to do her job. And then we also talk, of course, about how to find clients, what is important for all social media managers to know, and just all sorts of good things like that. And I really hope that you enjoy this episode because Stevie honestly shares so much valuable information and tips that I even learned something cool that I'm going to use in my social media. So without further ado, enjoy. Hey, Stevie, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Claire. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you here. I can't wait to talk about social media. And I want to just start at the very beginning with your story. Like, how did you get into social media?
Okay, so it's kind of a long story, but generally speaking, I feel like social media really found me. I had no idea when I was leaving high school or even entering into community college at the time. I had no idea that I would want to be doing anything related to social media for work. Um, I would say I got my start with it just by volunteering my time with this local Orlando nightlife brand, kind of an intentional nightlife scene party monthly at these like little local bars and stuff like that. And I really liked what they were doing. And I noticed that their Instagram was kind of, to me, it like wasn't up to par. Um, of course, at this point, I didn't know much about marketing to begin with, but I just noticed that it could be better. So I was like, hey, do you want me to run your Instagram? And the owner of the brand was like, sure, yeah, you seem edgy. You seem like you are the demographic of, the people who come to our party. So it was just totally random, but I started posting on their social media and it seemed like a lot of people really liked it. We were getting some like good engagement from people who were already following us and stuff. And from there, it just kind of snowballed into more opportunities with more local brands. I had a huge network of people around me from this first opportunity that I took, which kind of helped perpetuate, future opportunities. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's cool. So you just reached out to a brand and kind of pitched your
Yeah, a little bit. I
services.
didn't know at the time that I was really pitching or that I had anything good to offer. I just was interested in helping out a brand that really aligned with my morals. And at the time, I was already volunteering for them at the physical events, which involved, like setting up and tearing down stuff at the end, and making sure that people are having responsible fun, stuff like that. And then I was like, oh, might as well be running Instagram too. Why not?
Yeah. Did you teach yourself how to do social media or did you go through some online courses in the beginning?
I did a little bit of both. So initially, when I was doing Instagram for the intentional brand I'm talking about is called Body Talk. When I was doing Instagram marketing for Body Talk, I was just very lightly Googling, tips and tricks and which hashtags are the best and stuff like that. I didn't really have too much knowledge. But eventually, when I started taking opportunities with other local startups and focusing more on marketing growth, this is when I found a mentor as well as took some online courses with HubSpot and with Google, and got 3 certifications. The one that I recommend the most would be the HubSpot inbound marketing certification. I just think it's very timely and it's very relevant to what marketing is right now. And obviously, it's been changing so much with the birth of social media in the past 15 years or so. And I think the HubSpot inbound marketing course really nails it.
Is it a free course or did you pay for it?
I had it sponsored for me, so it's not free, but my mentor at the time did sponsor me to take the course. I think it's a couple $100, maybe even less. But they do have sales, I believe, sometimes, or bundles and stuff like that. So if you want to take a few courses at a time, and
Yeah, going to a little online course like that, especially getting a certification, that can add a lot of credibility to your profile.
definitely, yeah.
So then, how did you turn that into working remotely? Did you just like eventually decide that you wanted to be a freelancer, or how did it happen?
So I was working remotely before I was working remotely as a freelancer. When I was volunteering for Body Talk as the Instagram marketer, that was not remote, but I kind of realized that I didn't really need to be face to face with anyone in order to do my job. So I just kind of stopped appearing in person as much, but still made sure I was doing my job. And it wound up not being a problem because I was able to hold myself accountable and, still do my job. Once I had told one of my friends about this, that I was just doing like remote Instagram marketing for Body Talk, they were like, oh, well, if you want to work remote, there's this cool startup working downtown and they need an intern, which eventually turned into a remote position. And from there, I just never really looked back. I was like, you know what? I don't want to go to an office anymore. Like, it's not necessary. I can obviously work and produce results from home or from a cafe or from wherever I'm comfortable that isn't an office. So once I started, I just felt like I couldn't go back.
Yeah, once you get used to having your own schedule and wearing whatever you want and just all the freedom that comes from working at home, it is very hard to go back.
Yeah. And I've tried it a couple times. Um, in the beginning of 2020, I accepted a part-time office job with a local organization, a local nonprofit that I actually really, really loved and had been following for years and years. So I was really excited to work with the company's called Ideas for Us, and they're an environmental nonprofit. So, you know, they're doing all these cool projects locally and globally, and I was super pumped. But then I realized, like, going into the office like 2 or 3 days a week, I was like, oh my gosh, this takes so much time, like just driving here, sitting at a desk and powering everything up and looking at all the new platforms that they require me to use. Whereas like at home, I already know which platforms I'm comfortable with and I work best with. I already know like, that I can get up early and work from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. if I want to and still be just as productive as people who are working, 9 to 5 and actually driving to work.
Yeah, that is true. That like commute takes up a lot of time that you don't even think about, but that's dead time that you're not creating anything or charging your clients for.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any like go-to experts or like you mentioned a mentor? Do you have other like social media experts that you look up to?
I do have a couple, yeah. I'm no longer working with a mentor, just because the mentorship was kind of part of the position that I was working with the company at the time. But the people that I look up to the most, I would say, and not all of them are necessarily in the social media niche, but obviously Gary Vee. Everybody knows Gary Vee by now and how crazy he is. So I find him pretty inspiring. I also love Neil Patel. He's a pretty renowned marketer himself. He has great tips about converting people and marketing with meaning. And I really like that he connects to like emotions with marketing. Versus just like worrying about, I don't know, like petty numbers and stuff. He's more concerned about the person on the receiving end of marketing, which I think is really cool. I also like, there's a couple business coaches on Instagram that I really like. They kind of like teach you to have the right mindset about growing your own business. And I would say the top three people that I follow for that kind of stuff are one, Topsy Vanden Bosch. She's like super sassy and she dances and she pops off in her stories, and I love that. And then there's Amanda Colby, there's Carrie Ireland Co. They're all just really awesome at what they do. They sell a ton of their products and they help a ton of small business owners. So I love hearing what they have to say like all the time.
Yeah, it's always inspiring to be following a few other women or entrepreneurs who are also doing the same thing and sharing their knowledge and their secrets and stuff. I also have my people that I follow and look up to for inspiration and advice.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you were just getting started, since you pitched your services and didn't go through the usual like job application process, how did you know how much to charge for your service?
That's always like pretty difficult to answer in my opinion, because so much goes into actually pricing services. And in my case, I offer many services, so I've had to go through this process many different times. But really, I kind of just think of a base price for the services, and I base this price off of the value that I'm giving to the customer. And from there, once I get into like a discovery call with a lead or even like a text conversation sometimes right in the Instagram DMs. But from there, once I find out the potential client's needs, I kind of just give them a custom quote. But I do definitely have like a base price for all my services so that I know where to begin with the quote. And obviously, the more needs you have, the more you're going to get quoted for. Um, so it's not so black and white. It's a little abstract, and everyone's going to have to go through their own process for pricing their services. But I do definitely recommend more of like the personal approach and just quoting clients individually once you kind of have an idea of how much you want to charge at the very least.
Right. It sounds like you charge a flat rate versus hourly. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think about it in terms of hours when I'm creating the price, though obviously once I have quoted someone and I begin work on their project, I do log my hours while I'm working on that project to kind of just audit my time and determine, is this a fair rate that I'm charging my client based on how much work I've put in? Or, am I just working really inefficiently or inefficiently and, need to change my workflows in order to accommodate the rate that I have charged my client? So it's kind of complicated, but yeah, I don't really like necessarily think about the hourly rate as much when I'm like creating the flat price. I more think about the value that the client will be getting.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. Value is super important. And that's something that usually you learn a little bit later on into freelancing. Like in the beginning, at least for me, it was always hourly based. I always thought about how much time am I putting in, and then I bill for that time, and I didn't even consider the value of the work. And so
Mm,
I think it's very smart to price based on the value and also to have a flat rate so that you're not having everything like dependent on your hours.
right.
What does a social manager or social media manager generally do? Like, what does your day-to-day work actually look like for clients?
Well, I would say I'm more of a social media coach than a manager, though I do obviously wear a social media manager hat to run my coaching business. So, a social media manager, it totally depends. Every social media manager position is different based on the company that you're working with. But generally speaking, the consistencies that I've seen across the board is that a social media manager will schedule content. They will basically manage the engagement on social media accounts, replying to comments that are generated on the company's feeds and stuff like that. Maybe they'll be present on the story. Maybe they're required to use their physical presence to draw in more people on the stories and stuff like that. And I would also say that social media managers are not typically involved in the strategy. That's not always true, but from what I've seen in the past and from what I've experienced, when I was doing social media manager stuff, I wasn't necessarily free to strategize and come up with new concepts whenever I wanted. I was more just like an outlet for my managers or for, people who were higher up. I was more of an outlet for them to create and share the content that they really want to share. Doing social media management for my own brand, it's obviously a lot different. I have full freedom to strategize what I want and to post what I want when I want and stuff like that. So that's really fun because I actually love copywriting. I'm so happy that nobody has to review my stuff and I can just write from the heart and just put it up there for everyone to see. That feels really nice.
It must be fun doing social media for your own brand after like doing it for other brands and other companies for so long. Like it must feel really good to like do your own social media now in your voice.
Yeah, it does feel good. It definitely feels more authentic and it's easier for me to generate content because I'm just speaking as myself. Whereas if I was speaking for another brand, it's kind of like, all right, what are these brands' values? What is this brand's mission? What problem are they trying to solve? And always be speaking from, a branded perspective that obviously isn't like my own original thoughts or values. But now, yeah, getting the opportunity to do that for my own brand is super cool because, I know what I believe, I know what I want my followers to believe, and I know how I want to come off to them when they're reading my captions or, interacting with my content. So it's been really fun. Can be time consuming, I can get in my head sometimes and be like, oh, do I want to say it this way? Do I want to say it this way? But in the end, it's fine. Just put something up there, make it meaningful, make it something from the heart, and you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I wanted to ask you this because one of the questions that I see a lot in the guava bean community is like, what do I do on social media? A lot of freelancers think that they need social media to get clients, but they don't know how to use social media. And so there's a lot of like questions around how do I do social media for my brand? Like, what does it look like? And how often do I have to post? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely different for everyone. You kind of have to strike a balance for whatever your availability is for work. I'm aware that freelancers, including myself, have many, many things that are on their plate that they have to keep track of, whether it's like actual client work or, trying to acquire more customers, and everything in between. So for me, what I found works the best is finding small niche communities where people like me are interacting and asking for advice or are sharing from their own personal freelance journeys, which is pretty much how I found Guava Bean. Actually, I found Guava Bean while I was working at one of my other jobs, but when I had left that job, I remembered, oh, Guava Bean still exists. I still have a community where I can like engage with people who are doing what I'm doing and hopefully add and retain some value from the Facebook group. So I highly recommend Facebook groups. I think they're really awesome. Facebook groups definitely go super deep. Like there are a ton of Facebook groups on Facebook for like every single possible thing you can possibly imagine. But I definitely recommend just looking around, finding some Facebook groups that you align with the morals and the rules and stuff like that, and just making friends. I think that's really the best thing that you could do on social media to like promote your services is just connect with people and form relationships, add value, stop gatekeeping your knowledge. A lot of these people who are trying to be a freelancer think that they have some sort of secret or they have something that they can't share without being given money, but I don't believe in that at all. My number one value is that knowledge is open source and there should be no reason for you to withhold your knowledge from someone who needs it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I couldn't say it any better because I think, like you said, it comes back to the value. And I think that's what people, what if they can understand that, then you can have success with social media. If you're just posting fluff, which I see a lot of people just doing fluff content. And, I've been guilty of doing that in the past too for other clients when I was a social media manager. I didn't know what to do. And so I did what I saw everybody else doing, which was, promoting my stuff or like linking to random posts just to have content and stuff to put out. but there wasn't any real value to what I was putting out. And so I wasn't really seeing any value coming back from it. And this is why people wonder, like, does social media work? Because if you do it wrong, then you can be putting in a lot of time and energy posting and posting, but not really getting anything from it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's not necessarily bad to post, 17 times a day or post lots of fluff, but I think it's really important just to share goal-oriented content. Like, what is the goal of this post? Is it to evoke an emotion? Is it to get people to comment? Is it to sell a product or a service? Is it to get people to click on a link? Like, always post something that has a goal attached to it, unless of course you're just very inspired and you want to share like a selfie or like something interesting that just happened in your life that you think will resonate with your followers. I think that type of content is great, like kind of like spur of the moment, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this just happened to me kind of stuff.
But yeah, even that has a purpose. Like, that purpose is to connect with people and to show like that other side of you that doesn't have to be all about work.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think that's very good advice to always have a purpose in mind and to like know what you're posting it for, even if it's just for fun, even if it's for laughs, even if it's to share a funny story that happened to you. You know, if you have a real purpose and that purpose is not just to get likes and followers and clients, then I think people will resonate with that. I think people can tell when social media is not authentic and genuine.
Yeah, I can personally smell it from a mile away. I'm very intuitive, so I can see if somebody's like, I can tell if they're like reading something scripted or if like they've memorized a soundbite or something like that. Maybe it's not flawless intuition, but I definitely get a little feeling when something is obviously produced or manufactured versus like just inspired and authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think once you create content that is like inspired and authentic, then you can realize when stuff isn't. Like, if you've never seen that content or if you've never created that content yourself, then it can be hard to tell the difference. But once
Mm,
you see someone who's doing really good social media and who's being very honest and very authentic and vulnerable, then it makes all the not so good social media stand out.
yeah, that's definitely true.
Do you think social media is a good strategy for freelancers to get clients? Because for me, whenever people ask me this, like, do I need social media to get clients? I always say I didn't use it to get clients. Like, for me, I use job websites and I used Facebook groups, and I mostly
Mm.
get all my clients from referrals. But I've never actually tried to do it from social media, but I've never gotten any clients from social media either. So I just wanted to know, like, what do you think of social media as a strategy for freelancers to get clients?
I am all for it. I think social media is one of the most vital, channels for marketing that can be used right now in 2020, especially now with COVID-19 kind of going around and lots of people on lockdown, lots of people forced to stay home and work from home. Like, yeah, you need to get on social media. You need to start finding people who need the help that you can offer. Of course, freelancing sites like Fiverr, Upwork, GuavaBean, and stuff like that are great, but I think social media allows you to show a little bit more of your personality, show a little bit more specifically about what you do, and there's more opportunities to brand yourself and brand your services in a way that will draw in more curious people. Instagram specifically, I think right now is like where freelancers need to be selling their services. I've seen a lot of improvements on Instagram over the years. I know a lot of people have been saying that organic reach is dead on Instagram. That is absolutely not true. Most people just don't know which steps to take to grow organically. So I'm all for Instagram. I'm all for, even LinkedIn, even TikTok nowadays. So yeah, get on there and start promoting your stuff for sure.
I not TikTok. What about Twitter? Do you use Twitter?
I use Twitter for personal reasons. I'm the type of person, I'm trying to diversify, okay? Like I have a social media coaching business that I work on with my business partner Danielle, and then in my free time, I'm trying to grow a meme account on my personal Instagram. I've converted my personal Instagram to now a meme account. I'm trying to grow that. I want to start a YouTube channel. I don't know exactly about what yet, but I want to be doing so much. So I am on every single social media platform, but I haven't gotten to the point where I'm actually producing content for all of them yet. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everything.
Wow, you're everywhere. Social media queen.
Trying to be.
Tell me about this business that you're doing with your friend. You're a social media coach.
hmm So I started social media coaching by myself. I want to say in like 2018, maybe. I had just left my remote job. I realized I had so many skills that were profitable and that would help so many more people, and I could be making a bunch more money, right? It wasn't only about the money, but I just saw a lot of opportunity for me. So, kind of on a whim, I was like, I'll be a social media coach, let's try it out. Did some research on that niche and that industry and found out, do my skills actually align with what other people in this industry are doing? I found out yes. And I started doing it by myself, and it was way more like rookie than it is now that I have like my business partner Danielle with me. Like the branding was way different, like my designs were different, which I've archived all my old branding by now. But so I did it alone for a while, maybe about 6 months. And then I put it on hold. I tried an office job with Ideas for Us, that company that I mentioned earlier. And at that job, I actually met Danielle and we kind of hit it off. She was brought on as the marketing manager, and I was brought on as an office manager with marketing responsibilities as well. But we worked very closely together while we were at that job. COVID-19 broke out and we all got laid off. And so then I messaged Danielle and I was like, do you want to run my business with me? Because I need help. The branding needs to change. I love what you've done with Ideas for Us while we were working together. And I honestly was not expecting her to say yes. I thought she was going to be like, you're crazy. Like, there's a pandemic going around. Like, you want to start a remote business. Like, you don't even know me, blah, blah, blah. But she was like, yeah, sounds like a great idea. Let's do it.
I love that. I like that you started in the middle of COVID too. Like, that's a great story for people because I think everybody at this time was all like, business is terrible. Everything's shutting down. It's the worst time to be in business. At that time, I was like, no, there's so much opportunity here. You don't understand. Like, this is actually a great time if you know how to use it wisely. So I love that you were able to like create something out of a disaster, kind of.
Oh, yeah. And that's what social media is all about, too. Like how can you use the situation to your advantage? And obviously, be compassionate and, be reasonable with what you share. But I think that anything that happens like in the real world can be applied to your social media strategy and help you create content. You're not supposed to be tone deaf and ignore things that are going on in the real world. You're supposed to prove to people that you're aware of what's going on and you're aware of how you can help or how you can use your platform to make the situation better. That's what I believe, at least.
Hey there, we hope you enjoyed listening to the Dear GUAVABEAN podcast. If you'd like to hear the second half of this episode, log in to the Freelancer Toolbox or go to guavabean.com to start your free trial now. As always, our goal is to empower you with the information, inspiration, and direction you need to achieve financial freedom through online work. Thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. See you in the next episode.